The 2 seats reserved for my parents at my graduation stayed empty. 3 days later, a text lit up my phone. Need $2,100 for your sister's Sweet 16. When I said no, they called the police. That was the moment I realized I was never their daughter, just their backup bank. I remember standing on that stage, hearing my name echo through the auditorium. Ilara Vance, Master of Science, Data Analytics. The applause sounded far away, like it was meant for someone else. I scanned the crowd, searching for familiar faces, but the section labeled Reserved for Family was just a pair of empty chairs catching the light. I told myself maybe they got stuck in traffic. Maybe something came up. But deep down, I already knew. After the ceremony, my friends hugged their parents, posed for pictures, laughed about their next steps. I smiled for my own photo, my cheeks stiff, my eyes glassy. That smile was a mask I'd worn for years, proof that I was fine without the love I never received. I walked home alone that night, diploma in one hand, silence in the other. When the message came days later, it wasn't "we're proud of you" or "sorry we missed it." It was a request, blunt and entitled. $2,100 for Sloane's birthday party. No greeting, no emotion. Just another demand. I stared at the screen, remembering every dollar I'd sent home through college while Sloane got everything handed to her. Every birthday they forgot, every call they skipped. I typed back one word, no. 2 hours later, someone knocked on my door. 2 officers stood outside, saying my mother had called, worried about me. She said, "You've been acting strange," one of them said gently. I laughed, a small, bitter sound. I invited them in, showed them my spotless apartment, my textbooks still open on the table, my neat rows of job applications. They exchanged a look, then one said quietly, "Sometimes, when you start standing up for yourself, people don't like it." When they left, I locked the door. This time, I didn't just turn the key. I turned a page in my life. The silence that filled my apartment wasn't empty anymore. It was mine. Growing up, I learned early that love in my house always had a price. My mother, Diana, used to say, "Family helps family," but it always meant me helping them. By the time I turned 15, I had 2 part-time jobs, one at a grocery store, the other cleaning offices on weekends. I told myself it was just temporary, that once I got my degree, they'd finally see me as more than a source of money. But even as a teenager, I saw how different life was for my sister, Sloane. She got rides to school, gifts for no reason, and weekends spent shopping with Mom. I got lectures about responsibility and money management. Every time Sloane wanted something expensive, I'd hear my mother sigh and say, "Ilara, you're the practical one. You understand." I didn't argue. I just worked more hours. In college, things didn't change. My parents didn't send me care packages or ask how I was holding up. Instead, they'd call when they needed help paying a bill. I used my scholarship money for books and rent, but every spare dollar went back home. I told myself it was love. That's what love was supposed to be, right? Sacrifice. Giving until it hurt. When I finally got my master's degree, I thought maybe, just maybe, this time they'd be proud. I wanted them to show up to say, "We're proud of you, Ilara. You made it." But they didn't come. They didn't even call. The empty chairs at my graduation were more than just seats. They were the truth. All the years of working, saving, sending money, trying to earn their approval. It had meant nothing. That night, I sat on my couch, my diploma still in its folder, wondering how long I'd been chasing something that never existed. I kept thinking about all the times I skipped meals to send money home, all the birthdays I spent alone while Sloane got a new phone or a party. My parents never asked how I was doing, just if I could spare a little. Every favor was dressed up as love, but it was really just control. I started to see the pattern clearly. Love was never free with them. Every kind word came after I gave something. Every "we love you" followed a deposit. I was trained to measure affection in dollar signs. I realized I had never actually felt safe or appreciated, just used. Sloane was their favorite, but even she didn't see it. She thought our parents' attention was love, but it was just another performance. They adored whoever could give them what they wanted, and she played her role well, sweet, dependent, easy to manipulate. I used to envy her, but now I just pitied her. Because I was finally beginning to see the truth. What they called family wasn't real love. It was a transaction, and I had been paying the price my whole life. That night, I made a quiet promise to myself. No more loans. No more guilt. No more begging to be seen. I wouldn't buy affection again. The text asking for $2,100 kept flashing on my phone. I read it again and again, as if maybe I'd misunderstood. But I hadn't. They really wanted me to pay for Sloane's birthday party after skipping my graduation. There was no question mark, no please. Not even a greeting. Just another order disguised as a family favor. Something in me finally went still. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. For the first time in years, I didn't reply right away. I just sat in silence, remembering every time I'd given in. The rent money I sent when they said they were struggling, the phone bill I covered when Mom claimed Sloane needed it for school, the nights I stayed up worrying about their approval while they slept soundly. I had built my whole identity around being useful to them. But this time I felt something shift. I opened my banking app and sent exactly $1. The note read, "Congrats." It wasn't meant to be cruel. It was closure. My last transaction as their obedient daughter. Then I blocked my mother's number. The relief that followed wasn't dramatic, just quiet. Like finally exhaling after holding my breath for too many years. The next morning, I went through my drawers and found the extra house key I'd given my parents years ago. They used to stop by unannounced, pretending it was love, when really it was control. I held the key in my hand, staring at it like it was a tiny piece of metal holding a lifetime of intrusion. I walked straight to the trash can and dropped it in. The sound it made was soft, but it echoed through me like thunder. Then I called a locksmith. He showed up an hour later, friendly and unaware that he was part of a personal revolution. As he worked, I stood near the door, watching him install a heavy new deadbolt. When he turned it for the first time, the sound of the lock clicking shut sent a wave through me I can't explain. It wasn't just a door closing. It was a wall going up between me and the people who had always taken from me. After he left, I sat on the floor by the door for a while, listening to the quiet. It was strange how peaceful it felt, almost foreign. No buzzing phone, no guilt pressing on my chest. I made tea, opened my laptop, and began applying for jobs in cities far away. I didn't know where I'd end up, but I knew I'd never hand anyone else a spare key again, literal or emotional. That night, I lay in bed, feeling something new: freedom. Not the kind people talk about with fireworks and tears, but the kind that hums quietly inside you. I didn't know what would come next, but I finally felt safe. The sound of that deadbolt locking was more than protection. It was the start of my own life. The morning after I changed the lock, I woke up feeling lighter. For the first time, my apartment felt like mine. I brewed coffee, played some music, and thought maybe peace was finally possible. But just as I began to relax, a sharp knock hit the door. It wasn't the kind of knock neighbors used. It was heavier, official. My chest tightened before I even looked through the peephole. 2 police officers stood outside. I opened the door carefully, confused. One of them gave me a polite nod. "Ma'am, are you Alara Vance?" I said yes. The taller one continued. "We got a call from your mother. She said she's worried about your mental health, that you've been acting strangely." For a second, I couldn't even speak. My throat closed up. I had done everything right, worked, studied, built a quiet life, and somehow she still found a way to invade it. She couldn't get in with the spare key, so she used the police. My heart pounded as I realized this was her new way of control, humiliation dressed as concern. I stepped aside and let them in. My apartment was spotless. The dishes were washed, laundry folded, books neatly stacked. The scent of coffee still hung in the air. I showed them everything calmly, even my fridge filled with groceries and the work emails open on my laptop. The younger officer looked almost embarrassed. "This looks fine, ma'am," he said softly. I smiled weakly, though my hands trembled. "It always has been," I replied. The other officer gave a slow nod. He glanced around, then said quietly, "Sometimes when people start standing up for themselves, others panic." His words landed heavier than he knew. They left soon after, apologizing for the intrusion. I closed the door and leaned against it, shaking. The sound of the lock clicking again felt different this time, like a reminder of how fragile peace can be. My mother had turned my choice for independence into something shameful, twisting the story so I looked unstable. She wanted to scare me, make me open that door to her again. Instead, her plan had the opposite effect. The anger that once drained me now gave me strength. I sat down on the couch, my coffee cold, and thought about what just happened. My own mother had used the police to remind me of her power. But she underestimated me. I wasn't that scared girl anymore. I decided that day I wouldn't let her shape the story of who I was. I wouldn't explain myself or beg her to understand. She had crossed a line, and this time I wasn't stepping back. The apartment grew quiet again, and I welcomed it. The world outside kept moving, but inside those walls, I finally knew what safety meant. Her voice, her control, her guilt, all of it stopped at that door. And I swore it always would. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Every sound in my apartment felt louder. The clock ticking, the hum of the fridge, even my own heartbeat. My mother's welfare check had left a bitter taste in my mouth. I kept asking myself why she'd gone that far. I'd changed the locks, blocked her number, done everything to protect my peace. But something still felt wrong, like there was another layer I hadn't seen yet. I opened my laptop, more out of instinct than reason. I wanted to see something factual, something that couldn't lie. I typed in my credit report login and waited as the page loaded. When the results appeared, I froze. 2 new credit cards had been opened under my name just a few weeks earlier. My address wasn't listed, my parents' was. At first, I thought it had to be some kind of mistake. I'd always been careful with my information. But as I scrolled through the charges, the pattern became clear. A DJ booking, a party venue deposit, catering, decorations. Every transaction was linked to one thing: Sloane's Sweet 16. The $2,100 message suddenly made sense. It hadn't been a request for help, it was a distraction. She had already stolen from me. My stomach turned as I stared at the screen. The woman who gave birth to me had used my name, my credit, to throw a party for the daughter she actually cared about. It wasn't just betrayal, it was theft dressed up as family loyalty. I sat there for a long time, scrolling through the proof. The numbers blurred together, but the truth was sharp. They'd planned it. They knew I'd refuse to pay, so they did it first and expected me to clean it up later. My name was now tied to their lies. I felt a cold calm wash over me. The kind of calm that comes when anger burns too hot to feel anymore. I printed everything: statements, confirmation emails, transaction logs. I put the papers in a folder and stared at it on my table. My hands didn't shake this time. I wasn't the same person who cried over missed graduations or ignored calls. I was someone with evidence. Someone who finally understood what kind of people I was dealing with. They had crossed from emotional manipulation into a crime, and I was done pretending this was still a family issue. They wanted control, but this time they'd left a trail. A digital one, impossible to erase. I sat back, breathing slowly, the anger settling into focus. Every keystroke my mother made had written her own downfall. I didn't need revenge, I needed justice. And now, for the first time, I had the proof in my hands. The sound of the printer stopped, leaving the apartment in silence again. But this silence wasn't empty. It was waiting. Something inside me shifted. I wasn't their victim anymore. I was the witness, and soon, everyone else would see the truth too. I stared at the folder on my table all morning. Every document inside proved what they had done, but I still needed one more thing: her voice. I wanted to hear my mother admit it, to stop pretending she didn't know what was happening. I knew the law allowed me to record the call without telling her, and that gave me the courage I needed. When I finally dialed her number, my hands didn't shake. The phone rang longer than usual before she answered. Her tone was sweet, fake, the kind she used when she wanted something. "Ilara? So you finally remembered you have a family." I ignored the jab. "Mom," I said calmly. I checked my credit report. "There are 2 cards in my name with your address. You want to explain that?" There was a pause, then a small laugh. "Oh, that? You're overreacting. It's just to help build your credit. You know how banks work. We were going to tell you." Her voice was casual, as if she hadn't stolen from me. My stomach tightened, but I kept my tone steady. "You used my name for Sloane's party. There are charges for a DJ, decorations, catering. You spent thousands. That's not building credit, that's fraud." She sighed, long and dramatic. "You make everything sound so serious. It's family money, Ilara. We raised you. We've supported you your whole life. What's a few small things in return?" That sentence hit harder than I expected. Supported me? I almost laughed, but I let her keep talking. The recorder on my phone captured every word. "Mom," I said slowly, "you understand this is illegal, right? You took out cards in my name. You lied about my address. You've ruined my credit." Her tone shifted, colder now. "You think you're so perfect because you got a degree? Don't forget who made sacrifices for you. Everything we did was for family. You owe us that much." There it was, the truth she'd always hidden behind guilt. She didn't see it as stealing. She saw it as collecting payment. For existing. For leaving. For becoming independent. I let a moment pass before I said, "You just admitted it." She didn't reply. The silence stretched, sharp as glass. Then she hung up. I sat there for a while, staring at the phone screen. The recording was clear, her voice calm and certain as she justified everything. No hesitation, no shame. She truly believed she'd done nothing wrong. I saved the file and backed it up twice. That recording wasn't just proof. It was a mirror of who she really was. The woman I'd spent years trying to please was gone, replaced by someone who used love as leverage. For the first time, I didn't cry. I just felt an odd calmness, like closing a door I'd left open too long. The power she had over me was gone. Her voice, once something that controlled me, was now evidence. And soon it would speak for itself. The next morning, I woke up with a strange calm. The recording was saved, the papers were organized, and my decision was final. I wasn't going to hide or argue through messages anymore. I wanted to look her in the eye when I ended this. So I sent one short text. Meet me at the diner near Elm Street. Bring Dad and Sloan. She replied within minutes, acting like she was in charge again. Fine. 6 p.m. When I walked in, they were already there, sitting in a booth like a picture-perfect family. My father gave a nervous smile, my mother looked irritated, and Sloan scrolled on her phone like she was bored. I didn't sit right away. I just looked at them, the people who had turned my name into their game. Then I took a seat across from them and placed a folder on the table. My mother crossed her arms. What's this about, Alara? We don't have all day. I slid the credit report toward her. You opened 2 credit cards in my name, I said evenly. And you used them for Sloane's party. I have proof, and I have your voice admitting it. She blinked once, then forced a laugh. You're being dramatic again. We were trying to help you, not hurt you. My father shifted uncomfortably. Can we not do this here? People are watching. I leaned forward. You should be more worried about the people who are already looking into it. I filed reports with the bank and the authorities. There's an investigation now. They'll be in touch. For a moment, no one spoke. My mother's face lost all color. You didn't, she whispered. I did, I said quietly. Because you stopped being my mother when you used my name to steal. Sloan rolled her eyes. It's not a big deal, Alara. Mom said she'd fix it. I looked at her, still so sure the world revolved around her, and just shook my head. You'll understand someday what it's like to be used by people you trust. My father finally spoke, his voice small. You could have talked to us first. I did, I said. You just didn't listen. The waitress came by, asking if we wanted to order, but no one answered. The air felt thick. My mother stared at the folder like it was poison. For the first time, she didn't have a speech ready. No guilt trips, no excuses. Just silence. I stood up, placed some cash on the table, and looked at them one last time. This isn't revenge, I said softly. It's consequences. As I walked toward the door, I saw my mother's reflection in the diner window. Her expression wasn't angry anymore, it was fear. The kind of fear that comes when someone realizes they've lost control for good. Outside, the air was cool and steady. I took a deep breath and kept walking. For the first time in my life, I didn't look back. The night of Sloane's big Sweet 16 arrived faster than I expected. My phone buzzed all day with pictures and posts from old neighbors, balloons, fancy lights, and a pink banner that said Sloane's Night to Shine. I didn't comment, didn't scroll, didn't care. I sat in my small apartment with a cup of tea, my laptop open to a quiet screen. Everything I needed had already been set in motion. I didn't plan to ruin the party. That part was out of my hands. I had only given the investigators what they asked for, documents, dates, and the recording of my mother admitting everything. The rest was up to them. Still, when I thought about what was coming, I couldn't deny a part of me felt relief. Not joy, not revenge, just release. While laughter filled the rented hall across town, I stayed home reading a book, trying not to picture it. But I could imagine it too easily. The music blasting, Sloane in her glittering dress, my mother playing the proud hostess, pretending nothing had happened. She was probably telling guests about her wonderful daughters, smiling like her world was perfect. She had no idea her performance was about to end. Around 8 o'clock, I got a short email from the investigator. Action completed. Documentation collected. That was it. No details, no drama. But I could imagine the scene unfolding. The flashing blue lights outside the venue. The whispers spreading through the crowd as uniformed officers stepped in. The music dying mid-beat, the DJ unsure whether to keep playing. My mother would have tried to charm them at first, insisting there was a misunderstanding. She'd flash her polite smile, maybe offer to handle this privately. But the investigator would show her the papers, the fraudulent cards, the transactions, the evidence with her name tied to my address. There would be no denying it. People she'd spent years impressing would watch as her lies were read out loud. Sloane, standing nearby, would realize the party wasn't about her anymore. Guests would whisper, record on their phones, trade glances. The laughter would fade, replaced by that heavy silence that follows public embarrassment. My mother's mask would finally crack. I sat there in my quiet apartment, staring at the steam rising from my cup. I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel proud. It was more like exhaling after holding in too much pain. She had built her life around appearances, what people thought, what they saw. And now, the truth had found her, in front of everyone she'd ever tried to impress. The city lights outside flickered against my window. I turned off my phone, closed the blinds, and let the quiet settle. Somewhere across town, my mother's world was crumbling in front of strangers, and I didn't need to see it to know. I had finally stepped out of her shadow. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in years. The noise that used to haunt me, the guilt, the fear, the longing, was gone. And in its place, there was only calm. The news spread quickly after the Sweet 16 disaster. By the next morning, people in town were already talking. Photos from the party started appearing online, along with comments asking why the police had shown up. Some said it was about money, others said fraud. No one really knew the full story, but everyone knew my mother's name. The perfect image she had worked so hard to build started to fall apart overnight. The bank contacted her first. The investigation had moved faster than I expected. With the recorded confession and the paper trail, they demanded full repayment. Every cent of the $8,500 she had taken in my name. It didn't matter that she called it family money. It didn't matter that she'd once said it was to help me. The law didn't care for her excuses. She had to pay it back or face court. I heard most of this through official emails. They didn't need me anymore. My part was done. I had already frozen my credit, changed my passwords, and secured every financial account I had. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. Tired of chasing answers. Tired of being treated like a problem instead of a person. I finally had my peace, and I wasn't going to let her or anyone else take it again. Meanwhile, the small community we'd once lived in turned against them. My mother couldn't step into a grocery store without someone staring. My father, who had mostly stayed quiet through everything, was caught in the middle. I didn't hate him, but I didn't reach out either. He had watched her do it and said nothing. Silence, to me, was the same as help. Sloane's humiliation was loud and public. Videos from her birthday went viral, people laughing about how the cops came to her party. She deleted her accounts for a while, but screenshots lived on. I didn't enjoy seeing her go through that, even though she had treated me like I was invisible. She was still young. Maybe one day she'd see the truth behind what our mother had done to all of us. I didn't reach out to anyone. I packed away the last of my old family photos and stored them in a box. Not out of hate, but out of acceptance. Some things are better left in the past. I didn't want revenge anymore. I just wanted distance, quiet, and freedom from the noise of their control. Weeks later, I walked into my bank to finalize my new account. The clerk smiled and handed me a fresh card with my own name on it, clean, untainted. It felt like starting over. For the first time in years, I felt like my life truly belonged to me. There was no celebration, no tears. Just calm. Justice had come quietly, like a door closing softly behind me. My mother had lost her reputation, her comfort, and her control. I had lost a family, but found something better myself. And that, to me, was enough. Would you have cut them off completely like I did, or tried to forgive after everything? I still wonder sometimes if peace was worth the silence. Tell me what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. And if you want more true stories like mine, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned.